It was the first day of the new semester, and Layla stood at the front gates of her new high school, clutching the straps of her backpack tightly. The morning sun cast a soft glow over the red brick buildings, but instead of feeling excited, her stomach churned with unease. She had been the new girl 3 times before. Every time her father's job relocated them to a new city, she had to start over. New faces, new hallways, new rules, and unfortunately, new bullies. She wore a fitted pale blue top her mom had saved up to buy for her, nothing expensive, but special because it was the first new piece of clothing Layla had owned in months. The fabric was soft, the color brought out her gray-green eyes, and it made her feel, for once, like she belonged. But she didn't know that by the end of the day, that same top would be lying in tatters, ripped by hands that thought they had the right to humiliate her. The morning went quietly. She kept her head down, slid into classes unnoticed, and avoided eye contact with the louder kids who claimed the center seats. But halfway through lunch break, trouble came calling. It started with a voice low, mocking, and dripping with amusement. "Hey, new girl," a boy called from behind her. She turned slowly to see 3 figures striding toward her. The leader was Mason Grant, tall, broad, with a cocky smirk that said he'd never been told no in his life. On either side of him were his friends, Derek and Travis, both wearing identical grins. "That's a cute top," Mason said, eyeing her up and down. "Where'd you get it? Baby Gap?" His friends laughed on cue. Layla tried to ignore them and turn away, but Mason wasn't done. He stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "We have a tradition here," he said, his voice fake friendly. "New students gotta pass an initiation." Her pulse quickened. She hated the games boys like him played. She had seen them before, using laughter as a weapon, tearing into anyone they thought was weak. "I'm not interested," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. But Mason's grin widened. "Oh, you'll be interested. Trust me." Without warning, he reached out and tugged at her top, testing the fabric between his fingers. Layla slapped his hand away, but Derek and Travis moved in closer, boxing her in. The courtyard felt smaller. Students at nearby tables began to notice, some whispering, others pulling out their phones. Mason reached again, this time gripping the neckline and yanking hard. The sound was loud, fabric tearing, thread snapping. Gasps rippled through the crowd as Layla stumbled back, clutching the torn material to her chest. The pale blue was now jagged at the collar, her skin exposed. Heat rushed to her face, part shame, part fury. Mason laughed like it was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. "Oops," he said, holding up the torn strip like a trophy. Layla's heart pounded. She could feel eyes on her, some pitying, some entertained, none willing to step in. This was exactly what she feared when moving to a new school, becoming the punchline of someone else's joke. Mason waved the strip of fabric in the air like a flag of victory, and more laughter erupted. She turned sharply and stormed away, holding the remains of her top, not trusting herself to speak. Inside, though, a storm was building. That night, she sat in her small bedroom, staring at the torn top on her bed. Her mom knocked softly and came in, concern etched across her face. "Sweetheart, what happened?" Layla hesitated, then told her everything. Her mom listened quietly, then said something Layla didn't expect. "I know you can handle yourself. You've trained for years. You just didn't want to fight today. But if they push you again, you know what to do." Layla's mom had been a martial arts instructor before their moves had made it impossible to run a dojo. Since Layla was 6, she had trained in kickboxing, Muay Thai, and self-defense, not to show off, but to protect herself. She had never used it in a real fight at school. But that day's humiliation burned deeper than any previous bullying. The next day, Layla dressed in a simple black tee and jeans, her hair tied back in a tight braid. She walked into school with the same quiet presence, but inside, she had made a promise to herself. She would not let Mason or anyone else lay a hand on her again. Mason spotted her by the lockers and smirked. "Look who's back. Hope you wore something you don't mind losing." His friends laughed again. Layla looked him dead in the eyes, her voice calm but icy. "Touch me, Mason. I dare you." His smirk faltered for a second, just a second, but pride wouldn't let him back down. He lunged forward, reaching for her shoulder. That was his mistake. Before his fingers touched fabric, Layla stepped in, pivoted on her heel, and slammed her elbow upward in a perfect, fluid strike. The point of her elbow caught him just under the chin with a sickening snap. Mason's head whipped back, his knees buckled, and he dropped to the floor clutching his jaw. Silence swept the hallway. Layla didn't flinch. She didn't apologize. She just looked down at him, her voice steady enough for everyone to hear. That's the only warning you'll ever get. And then she walked away, leaving the crowd frozen in shock. Phones had caught it all. By lunch, the video was already spreading across campus. The girl who had been humiliated yesterday was now the girl no one wanted to mess with. But Layla knew it wasn't over. Mason's pride had been shattered in front of the entire school, and boys like him didn't forget.